Of KingZone DragonX, who the favorites were.
KT roster.
LCK. Oh, there I go. Hey guys, we're here at Lal Park for LCK Spring 2019 once again. It's me, Valdez, and Papa Smithy joining you on the broadcast here. Once again, it's Friday night. We're about to jump into Hanwha Life versus KingZone for our first matchup.
Another one of those once again, of course, these teams played very recently. There was some Frostmancy shenanigans, but the winner was super clear on that day. It was Hanwha Life Esports. KingZone in some good form. I think a lot of people think the flip result might happen today, but we're on 9.4. We're still seeing how it all shakes out, and that Rek'Sai, we still haven't seen it in action. Today might be the day.
Yeah, yesterday, first matchup we had, we didn't see any of it, picked or banned. Second one, it was Damwon versus Dinner, and Damwon banned it twice just because, I think it was Showmaker, or someone said in the interview, maybe Point, he was like, we don't really know how to play against that champion, so we're just going to ban it. And maybe gave away a little bit of information, but it definitely remains clear that Rek'Sai is very strong on this patch. We should definitely see it more in pick and bans.
Honestly, I think picks and bans today, given just some patch prep I've done and just where these teams have found their victories, is going to be really interesting because I feel like there is actually a way to ban out 3 champions and shut down the winning strategies that both Hanwha Life and KingZone have shown. There's going to have to be acceptable losses elsewhere on the Rift, and when it comes to the Rift, it's 5th versus 6th, and with Damwon Gaming on this runaway 5-match winning streak, it does feel like KingZone versus Hanwha Life might be the battle for the final remaining top 5 spot if things stay like they do around Griffin, Sandbox, SKT, and Damwon.
Certainly does feel that way. Damwon looking a lot better after some of the roster changes, and there's only one spot left below them as Sandbox also able to rectify some of their losses and feeling pretty good. But now it's between KingZone and Hanwha Life, and you can see the last time they did play, KingZone did go down 0-2 up against Hanwha Life, but KingZone on a 4-game and 2-series win streak, especially that 2-0 over Sandbox, shows that they are looking much better recently.
And I think they really understand where they're strong, where they're weak, how they come together a lot more than they did as the season started. The 4-0 loss streak against Griffin and Sandbox, one revenge result already against Sandbox. Now they're looking for another type of revenge, and enough revenge with also some consistency KingZone DragonX rising up the spots at Hanwha Life Esports. We know they're good, but are they good enough to be anything more than that line between playoffs and not playoffs that they've served as a 6th place team for the last year?
And as the production is in tune with us, they get the same point across to you guys. Who's going to get the 5th place spot? Who is going to get into playoffs? That's the big one. They want to play in that wild card match and try to make it up. And you can see down at the bottom, that ace matchup, Deft is tied for first in MVPs with Toby up at the top with 9 MVPs, but Tempt picking up 6 MVPs out of the last 8-match wins.
Deft is on a 6 MVP win streak. That's the longest MVP win streak I've ever heard of in a competitive league. To win MVP 6 games in a row is pretty unthinkable. Tempt 6 out of 8 games is 75% MVP rate, which is also insane. Remember, Lava was taking that spot as well. I would actually miss that 6 MVP win streak from Deft. That just means quietly he has been just the crown jewel we know he should have been on paper on KingZone DragonX. And if Deft gets 2 more MVPs today, goes without being said, that would be just an incredible thing, an incredible streak to be on.
Certainly is. We're going to take a look at some highlights here, this time from the side of KingZone in their matchup against Sandbox, which once again they won this one 2-0. Nice little teleport play by Pawn to get on in there, and I remember this match where Ghost couldn't get anywhere near the Baron, and they closed the distance and were able to take them out. KingZone looks so clean in this series against Sandbox. We're hoping for another performance, especially out of Deft's Ezreal, which was unbelievably pristine on that day.
And now when we see Sandbox have a return performance yesterday, maybe it's more about how good KingZone is rather than Sandbox falling away on the newest patch. Maybe it was actually an illustration of where KingZone DragonX are at. Speaking of illustrations, Tempt bringing back the Syndra. He was always a very well-known Syndra player alongside Ian, MVP fave. And from there, just able to close out a pretty straightforward series against a FLICKR Freaks. It went 3 games, and that's the part where you're like, okay, Hanwha Life Esports, where are you really at? They have fallen away in terms of their top 5 candidacy since they easily beat KingZone DragonX a couple of weeks ago. And we're just waiting to see if this story will be any different today.
Love the slowdown of the blasting plant that comes in, and who's going to use that Zaya ultimate better here? It is going to be your 80 carry in Sangyoon that, again, another one of these shining lights on the side of Hanwha Life has been Sangyoon. Of course, he trying to bring back some of that light with his own Blitzcrank play on that day.
And Sangyoon versus Deft, your featured matchup. Deft getting back to quintessential Deft numbers. Imagine if he could get 2.5 points higher and have a 40% average damage participation. That is an insane number, 37% for a season statistic. Good news story for both these players. Ashe is finally available to be selected.
Yep.
Both these players have played the most Ashe of anyone in the LCK so far. 2-0 for Deft, 4-2. So 4-1, sorry. So 5 games of Ashe already for Sangyoon after it was disabled. For patch 9.3, it's back on 9.4. And Deft is only 30 or so kills away from 1,000 kills in the LCK, even after 2 years lighting up the Rift in China.
He's looking to be the next one along the line. I think he would be number 6 or number 5. There haven't been too many of them, but he's looking for that next spot here as KingZone DragonX are going to be walking out onto the stage right now. You can see that Pawn is going to be starting here for the side of KingZone. The last time they did go up against Hanwha, they brought out Nahun for game number 2, and then he even wasn't able to bring them a win.
We definitely saw a down performance from Pawn in game number 1 on the Sandra when these two teams faced, so hopefully he can be back in form. If he gets that LeBlanc, we know he is a monster on that particular pick. There, of course, is the bows to the audience on the side of Hanwha Life. They're sticking with their most recently fielded roster, no Lava, for quite a while. To see how Hanwha Life can back it up here. If they go 4-0, or even just take a second match victory, remember head-to-head is the 3rd tiebreaker in the LCK, and with how close things are around top 5, it could be the difference.
It's a huge match, maybe the most important one, as you are remarking, as both these teams are in the middle, and you'd have to imagine that they would have similar records against better and worse opponents. So, big one today, as Hanwha Life is going to be walking out here. We'll see who's going to put on the carry pants tonight as I feel like Hanwha Life definitely one of these more well-balanced teams, as sometimes it's Deft, or rather Tempt in recent times. Thal, though, and bonO have done it in the past, where Sangyoon definitely another big carry for the team.
And honestly, it's this matchup that, again, it doesn't have as many household names. KingZone and Hanwha Life are not the ones that get the audience as easily interested from the global audience perspective, but because Griffin's removed this week, we do actually have some of these matchups that on paper should be very competitive. And I'm all about a competitive potential 3-game series. That's how we built it 2 weeks ago. It didn't go that way. Hanwha Life were better on the day. KingZone DragonX need to make it known today that they can actually contend against other top 5 teams. They proved it against Sandbox, back it up against Hanwha Life, and then we can start talking about KingZone DragonX for the first time since maybe spring last year.
It's definitely something that a lot of people have been wanting to hear, that story of KingZone coming back with Deft and Pawn, definitely a couple of guys that have huge fan bases alongside the team. And here's the smiling Hanwha Life Esports coach.
Coach on air, of course, as we always say, and Azubu, Frost, and Blaze OG. MIG, Azubu, CJ, he was through all those organizations. In fact, shout out to one of the favorite sons of CJ. Happy birthday to BDD.
Yeah.
He's 20 today, and it is the 3-year anniversary of his debut tomorrow. I remember sitting there looking at those Zed montages and knowing when LCK Spring 2016 started what a great talent we would see. We won't see him this week. KT Rolster don't play till next week, but shout out to the BDD and KT fan group who handed out some memorabilia today in celebration of that day.
Some nice, cute cup holders. I think they're pink as well. Definitely very nice, as we're going to be jumping into game number 1 here. KingZone on blue, Hanwha Life on red. Who is going to put the emphasis on the Ezreal? What about that Rek'Sai? Lots to talk about here on 9.4.
There's so many champions here that I find significant and pick ban, and they're not all going to be banned. In fact, of the underlined ones so far, Tahm Kench is the first. TusiN's most played is Tahm Kench. Key has played 12 games of Tahm Kench. How is that possible? He hasn't played that many games so far this season, but 12 games of Tahm Kench. That means that Key will have it banned away. There's a lot of picks that I think could swing this matchup. For example, Pawn is 4-0 on LeBlanc. He goes Kleptomancy LeBlanc in that most recent series. He's looked really good on the pick, so it's a smart ban here. But already, something's got to give. Olaf for bonO, we know about that one. Urgot is 7-0 for Rascal, and we know that's basically soft removed from the pool, kind of like a Kali, given the double nerf to the shield. And because of that, the only other Rascal pick I see is Jace. I think Jace is the new first pick Urgot. It's a very different champion. It doesn't let you win team fights, but it is kind of uncontestable in the top lane for most matchups. So Malphite tried, and I don't think the Malphite failed because of Malphite, but something's got to give in terms of balance. Rek'Sai, Ezreal, Vladimir, but also player tendency. And that's why, to me, today's series, there's going to be big kind of match-winning picks on both sides that cannot go banned in the first round.
And speaking of big picks, Vladimir immediately snatched up here. And we might even see our first Rek'Sai onto the rim
Give it
for
to me, baby.
9.4.
That's what I want.
Man, I love that song. And I love some Rek'Sai. It's been owning for my team in solo queue recently, Papa.
I'm into what I'm into, and I'm into Rek'Sai. That's where things are right now, so happy to see Rek'Sai finally hit the picks. Again, 2 bans in the Dom 1 Gaming series, but it sounded like you say when we heard, it was kind of precaution bans of, I think we heard it's good, but not sure, don't want to play against it. So Rek'Sai going to be locked in for the jungle here on the side of Hanwha Life. Supremely strong early game jungle. I think of it as souped up Elise in some ways, but the AD version. We'll talk a bit more about why she's really abusing the new Conqueror Keystone and other changes in the game. And Thresh for some more power, but KingZone have a lot of options available. And if Cuzz is blind picking junglers recently, it's Aatrox. So this would be Aatrox jungle, almost certainly on the side of KingZone. It's another one of those underline picks. I've got you here to confirm it. I got a star and an underline.
I see it. Yeah, you even got the star in there, too.
Cuzz used to go for the blind pick. Jax, he's given up on that.
I like the X's above Urgot and Akali, by the way.
I did. Urgot and Akali are dead on my KDA charts. Speaking of dead, it's the dead KDA, it's a dead win-loss champion of good old Sylas. We'll see where Sylas is going here. You're really a big fan of Sylas.
Life game 1. No, I'm not a big fan. And hey, Azir receiving some buffs. He's going to go back to Tempt for this time.
I had a question mark under Azir because it's 1-0 already from Pawn. And I wondered how high would the priority be, because Tempt, if you remember, on BBQ Oliver's, they had that mid-season stretch where they won some games where Tempt was just like, I don't care about this meta, I'm going to go back to the Azir, I'm good at it. He wouldn't win on it, but eventually he played so much of it that he isolated, looked really strong on the pick, and it's just ultra comfort for Tempt. He's jumping on Azir, who got buffed on patch number 9.4. It looks like a small buff because it says attack speed scaling 1.5% to 3%. And you think about how you get 10% plus from daggers and you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like a lot. But remember, every item you purchase is based on base attack speed scaling. So now Nashor's Tooth gives 40% more of the more you're getting from the base stat. So it's actually a way bigger buff on Azir than first meets the eye. It means one item power spike Azir will be doing much more damage than before.
I actually played against it today, Syndra versus Azir. Once he gets the Nashor's Tooth, it's like it's a fury of blades. He comes at you so fast.
A hail of blades even?
Yeah, I mean, you know, could even, I don't think he'll be taking that one, but...
I mean, we saw from Pawn in the victory, right? He went
crazy.
Hail of Blades, Frostmancy, Azir.
Hail of Babes.
Hail of Blades. Hail of Babes is a different problem.
Yeah,
Hail of Blades, it wasn't Kleptomancy, it was Hail of Blades into Frostfang Azir, is when we saw it from Pawn. It might just be straight up Hail of Blades, Nashor's Tooth Rush, insane burst into even high attack speed from there. So very cool. And Hail of Blades, it also is based on base attack speed, so it will be better on Azir than before. You know what's better than anything else? Jinx from Deft. He's hovering it. We're getting excited already, but I would love to see it locked in.
Yeah, I mean, he even had the Xayah taken away, that with the Essence Reaver coming back to its old form. Seems to be coming back into the meta. We're 2 seconds left, and will it happen?
Oh, he's typing something in. He might be changing. Oh,
Brom, that's like the...
That's the opposite of Jinx.
I know.
Brom doesn't have any tattoos.
He's just gonna like put up a shield and kind of sit there. Be defensive. Nobody likes that.
So is it going to be Vladimir for Deft? He was on Cassiopeia in the second game of their first meeting. I want to see an 80 carry. Give it to me, please. KingZone DragonX. Something with range here, because you don't want to be in his... Yes, that range it is, Jinx! Yeah! Okay.
Just playing with our hearts a little bit, you know?
Jinx actually makes sense compositional 5v5 because you outrange with the rockets the Azir threat range of the Sand Soldiers being out.
Yeah.
How will I see a Jinx and like, we need to get to this guy soon. Now, there's two ways to approach this. You go with Jarvan and you engage, or you try to kite back and force Jinx to overextend and look for an Azir sec play. They're going to take Jace. So they're going to actually go through the school of thought of trying to outrange and kite the Jinx. That is a risky way to go, because right now, the only real backline access teamfight-wise reliably is Azir going hella deep, and that is very risky on such a high damage, sustained DPS mage, so really cool to see. Yes, Rek'Sai could get there, but late game Rek'Sai is going to struggle 5v5-wise, so I think Hanwha Life are going to try and play around strong lane, specifically top, and to a lesser extent the bot lane, and try to playmake around just how powerful bonO will be on the Rek'Sai in the early to mid game.
And if you guys have been playing some solo queue nowadays, the Rek'Sais are hitting the Rift in a big way. I see it banned actually more often than picked nowadays, just because of how ridiculous it can get. I had this Rek'Sai just come mid over and over and over again when a guy doesn't have flash and he's level 6. Rek'Sai just shows up and kills you. His AD ratios are insane.
Yeah.
And you can't miss if you get on top of them, and now you can't miss with your ult, so you're always on top of them. It's really fun stuff, and it's a lot of damage, so very happy we get to see it tonight.
Well, we will talk more about the Aatrox versus Rek'Sai matchup when we see it in action. The Sylas is one that gets those jeers, but mid lane Sylas has situationally popped up. Very interesting to see what ult he's going to steal, because it's not the highest value game on the side of KingZone DragonX versus Hanwha Life for sure. So Sylas, we remain to be convinced, and you imagine that Tempt's going to be doing plenty of chip damage in the lane.
Excited to see him back on the Azir. Seems much stronger now after that. What looked like a small buff, but definitely could do some crazy stuff, especially with that one item power spike in the mid game. We'll have to wait and see how that does go down. Thal last picking the Jace. Seems to be high on the tier list, but last picked here, just sneaking into the game. Let's see how it's going to go here. Match 53, game 1, KingZone versus Hanwha. And here we are on the Rift once again. Will be Pawn hopping back onto the Silas here up against that Azir. Could be a pretty fun matchup there. Looking forward to it.
Aren't you hyped that we hyped up how exciting this pick ban could be? And both from a player tendency, a meta, and even just falling back into historical picks like the Deft Jinx, which is honestly a spirit animal. Many people would say the alpaca. I'll say Jinx. He is... we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about here and a lot of contested picks. We're going to look over some of the tendencies here. It's Rascal's first game on Vlad. Actually, Thal has been our top lane Vlad player. We wondered where Rascal would go. 7-0 Urgot. Urgot basically removed from the pool. Goes for a blind pick and I guess flex pick Vladimir. The Jace was the one I assumed he would go to. He's 1-1 on the pick. Deft only has played a single game of the Jinx. Every time you see it, though, you are hyped to see it. And then we go to the side of Hanwha Live, and to me, the most significant one is Tempt on Azir. He has played so much of this pick, and in the confidence he's in, because he's played as a... There's so many great games. 6 out of 8 games in wins, he has been their MVP, and I'd be really excited to see Tempt level up on... It's not going to be Halo Blade, it's just going to try to poke with the Summoner here.
We're taking a look here at the runes of the Rek'Sai. Definitely important to note with the 9.4 changes to Conqueror. Definitely Rek'Sai, one of the big, I wouldn't call it an abuser, but definitely one of the champions that can really make great use of that new rune.
So the basic thing that you need to understand about Conqueror, we talked about it yesterday, but of course, if you look over the patch notes, only stacks on champions now. It doesn't stack on minions anymore. So for junglers before, it was kind of a wonky rune to proc, because you didn't just chill on minions like an Aurelia and then surf on with full Conqueror stacks, like Darius, for example. For a jungler, it's kind of the same use case scenario, and Rek'Sai basically fully stacks both Conqueror and Black Cleaver, because every part of her Q counts as a separate auto, so just as she rolls in with Unburr into the 3 Qs and the E, it's 5 stacks instantly of Conqueror and also the Black Cleaver. That's why the standard build at the moment is Warrior into Black Cleaver. From there, situational. Her AD ratio is something you talked about in pick ban, and something that people are really feeling now that her ult got so much more reliable. You can't dodge it really like you could previously. You could just arcane shift and flash away pretty trivially before patch 9.4. That now being a guaranteed hit, you realize that she has a 5.2 AD ratio on her burst rotation, and it's basically all targeted. So because of that, you really do feel it, Valdez. And the thing you learn about pro players, it's why we saw so many Rise metas over the years, is if pro players hear that something is super reliable, i.e. it doesn't involve a lot of skill shots and you basically get the full rotation off every time, and it's a high AD ratio, pro players will almost always take the reliable option over the maximum damage option. And if the reliable option is the maximum damage option, then it's going to be contested pick and ban basically every game.
Yeah, and using that new rune that, well, the change rune that seems to be very strong currently, as bonO coming in for that first gank. Pawn flashing to the right side.
You're scared
bonO.
of that Rek'Sai.
Oh yeah, doesn't waste any time getting away from her. Already used the tunnel, so bonO just says, yeah, we got the flash, just let him get away.
Now 5.2 sounds like a big number, but of course if you don't play the game, it's not trading bots. So you might say, okay, it sounds big, but give me some context. Lee Sin is a very similar champion in the early game in terms of AD scaling and gank threat. Lee Sin, if he hits everything, and remember, you got to hit both sides. You got to hit the Q, so you got the skill shot there. Theoretically, your E could be flashed away from. Lee Sin, if he hits everything, has a 5 AD ratio. Rek'Sai will almost always hit everything and has a 5.2 AD ratio. So, given that Rek'Sai also has a winning matchup into Lee Sin, in your solo queue, if you're like, what should I play against Lee Sin? The mechanic that you can unburrow, interrupt the second part of Q, means that that AD ratio is going to be way lower. It means that Rek'Sai has always been a preferred pick into Lee Sin through every meta. Given that you have the winning matchup and overall the more reliable burst rotation, Rek'Sai, given how she abuses Conqueror and has a really nice build path into Black Cleaver, should definitely be one you consider on patch 9.7.
And it's definitely part of the reason why we were surprised to not see her picked at all yesterday. Was banned twice. We're going to have to take a look at this Infernal Drake that's being taken away so far by KingZone very early on. This is at 5 minutes it was started, and no response from the side of Hanwha Life means that it just essentially goes over for free to the side of KingZone.
Invested a lot to make it happen, but they trusted that bonO was top side of the map. They roamed down with their duo lane and also the mid lane that provides coverage. So that is very much a Deft win condition in the late game. That is very much a team fight choice, and KingZone have the team fighting lead as the game goes on. The moment that Hanwha had the choice of what do we go for last pick, and they hovered 3 champions, I think you actually got the comms. It feels like we actually hacked into the comms because the first hover was Jarvan. That's because, all right, we need to kill this damn Jinx. Let's get the Jarvan. Backline access confirmed. Then you saw the hover on Karma, which is, okay, let's try to kite back and kite out the Jinx in team fights and have the shields to just allow Azir and Xayah mid-game to outdo the Jinx and outrange, and they settled eventually on Jace for, let's just win top lane and make it not about the 5v5. So we actually saw the evolving comms in the hover of the champions, so sometimes it's just trolls, this time it's actually very informational, and they settle on Thal in a winning matchup, Tempt in a very good matchup in the mid lane, and Azir and Xayah are 2 strong threats, but Infernal Drake and just how things will come together with Vlad Jinx tells you this game is on a bit of a timer from the side of Hanwha.
Yeah, and personally, I think they made the right decision. I feel like, especially up against Rascal, that they should have the analysis and information, the stats that Rascal, it's his first time playing it this year, right? This Vladimir that's super strong. He might just be picking it for, hey, tier list, right? Vlad has a almost 70% win ratio over something ridiculous like 26 games, right? It's incredibly strong right now. You go for that, you say, hey, Thal, one of the new big guns in the top lane, just try to win lane and, go from there. We've seen so many different teams just rely on winning lane to go ahead and win games. So, Hanwha like their kind of strategy. We'll see if it does pan out.
And I think a lot of people, if you ask them, what does a KingZone DragonX loss look like in 2019? It's not Deft making a critical error. It's side lanes, mid lane, and top lane. One of them losing too hard for the game to actually reach a point where Deft is relevant to 5v5. So I actually like the approach of picking a good matchup into Rascal. Speaking of the mid lane,
Pun just runs at Tempt, and he doesn't have his flash, so he gives his life over. First blood, thankfully for him, at least goes to Key.
Nice roam though as Key comes through. I love how they put that all together. But these good matchups on Hanwha Live are trying to remove the Deft win condition, the Infernal scaling win condition. They're actually coming together.
Yeah, definitely good timing. Certainly questionable as to why Pawn was getting so aggressive by himself without flash against an Azir with his ult up. But, mistakes are made, and Hanwha Life easily going to capitalize on that. So, they lose only the Infernal Drake, but top lane's going well, mid lane now extremely well. And if they can just shore up this bottom lane and go with parity, I'm sure they're going to be pretty happy with the early game.
This play was actually super sick though, because Pawn just says, I want to trade, trade out the minion wave, and he's not that far up the lane, right? But Key roaming down is why the play actually results in a kill. I think if Key is not there, it's never going to be kill threat. I understand where you're coming from, and Pawn unfortunately has had these moments where he's been a big issue when it comes to laning phase deaths, but to me that's more about Hanwha Life's smart roam than Pawn making a big mistake.
Uh-oh, Thal and a bit of a wonky one here is going to get flashed on with that stolen Azir ult, and here's Cuzz as well. They will have enough damage to take him out and punish him for getting way too aggressive in the enemy blue buff.
That lust for the Scuttle Crab has killed a couple of top laners so far this week. People roaming down, being taken there. The deep ward put down from Thal may not be scouted for a while. The kill ends up being an easy one. bonO's chasing in here. Cuzz still has his passive, so doesn't have to worry about being first.
Snipes that one away too. Has Rascal in the top lane, as you mentioned. bonO just going to soak this XP and feel not super great about that, as Thal doesn't even have his TP to get back to lane.
Both top laners are built for lane. Seeker's Arm Guard Rush against Hex Drinker Rush for the laning matchup, but don't get it wrong. Should be Thal dunking on matchup. I imagine Execution's calling comes to bot lane.
Nice little trade of ultimates there as Deft and TusiN really trying to push their advantage that they have in the lane already. They know it's a Xayah with flash up. They know they're not going to kill her. They just want to get her to use her abilities and or summon her.
It is not expected though for Jinx to be up in CS against Xayah Thresh, a strong duo. So Thal stole blue and put down the ward and then was kind of milling around this river area. It wasn't about a Scuttle Crab like outline, but it's the same area that we saw a similar play happen yesterday. Ends up being too bold. It's off the map for too long. Sangyoon being about a minion wave down in CS is probably the most surprising thing about the early game. That's an annoying interrupt by Deft.
Must have seen him go straight into that brush and back, but that was spot on. And very annoying, as you mentioned, as he would definitely like to go back. Does eventually get back there. But after that death, I mean, that does ease up some of the tension up in the top lane near Vladimir gets a kill. It allows KingZone to sit back. You know, Deft gonna get another one of these plates down in the bottom lane, and you look at the gold now, it's a lot more even after that early game that was initially looking much better for Hanwha.
It's definitely been more than meets the eye early game, because we already mentioned Azir greater than Sylas in lane, Jace greater than Vlad in lane. But, and we saw, of course, plays around that way. Oh yeah, Sylas died as well. It must be a huge lead. While it's 20 CS, do notice that a turret plate was gotten by Sylas in an Azir matchup. And that doesn't sound like a big thing, but if you remember, Azir was famous for having his mid lane turret after 35 minutes, and he can just farm out mid lane. So even losing a turret plate in the matchup is pretty surprising. It's a bit of a head jerker when you look at it. There is two turret plates for Vladimir in the Jace matchup, so the turret plate lead doesn't mirror some of the other leads around, and that means that actually the gold is even when the lanes looked really good for Hanwha Life in the solos, and Windows needs to be looked at.
Yes, hello. Yes, click the button on the right. That is the one that says OK.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We're going to have a Windows update on screen for a very long time here. Sorry about that, guys, as it seems like some communication issues. But on screen in the game, we actually do have KingZone pushing for that first blood turret, and Pawn going to get hooked up once again. This is that Azir ultimate, kind of at a desperation, and finally Windows is gone. But so is Sylas, so is Pawn.
So Pawn tries to stop it being a tempo lead to Hanwha Life. Really wants to slow down what's going on there, because they knew the Rift Herald would be an extra objective, but he's only ever going to die. If you have an Alistair ult steal, maybe you can pull off that play, but really curious he would stay for that long. The Rift Herald charge is going to almost take down this turret, and while they won't finish it, so it is overall a turret lead trade to KingZone, I think giving up his life there was too much from Pawn.
And definitely interesting stuff, at least, though he is the one that's picking up these kills. You would love to get that onto Azir and have him scale. I mean, you see Azir with 2 assists. That could have been him with 2 assists. And he on the Thresh getting at the 2 assists with the kills on the Azir, but not quite the case here.
So how did KingZone play the game from here? Notice what we outlined in Champion Select. Xayah indirectly buffed in a massive way with the Essence Reaver buff this patch. Essence Reaver done. Azir, attack speed scaling means that every attack speed item he buys now fits him better, and National's Tooth was always his one item power spike. National's Tooth done. Now is the time for KingZone to actually emulate the play they did just before, but a little bit better. Run around the members of Hanwha Life. You do not want a 5v5 now where Hanwha Life are maybe relatively more powerful than they will ever get this game. You want to take down objectives where possible. Pawn once again, he's around the mid lane, and while it doesn't look like it's too far up, it's a repeat of a play that cost him his life a couple of minutes ago. For the first time, shame on them. Second time, shame on me, I guess, on that one.
It's definitely worrying stuff. You know, I feel for the Pawn fans, because we've said it before. It's kind of like the flippy matchup whenever you throw Pawn in. Sometimes he plays LeBlanc and he just blows your mind and destroys the enemy mid laner, and sometimes he plays Sylas and, you know, gets ganked a billion times and dies a billion times. It feels. But here we go again. He's going to dodge that, actually. Nicely done, but it's 4-on-1 essentially here as Pawn, with nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, is going to go down, but look at the rest of the map here.
And that's the thing, is that remember that Pawn has been the court jester for the hard carry performance for Deft in successful teams before, and killing Pawn for a third time doesn't get them much.
Yeah.
They want to continue to not fight 5v5. I don't actually mind this death at all from the side of KingZone. Yes, Sangyoon will slowly take down a turret, but they're getting gold on Deft, shared gold, and solo gold on Rascal, so both scalers are getting advantages. This time, if you're going to invest that many people, Pawn's death is not a problem.
Sometimes, you know, it's a hard trade to go for, but Hanwha Life got to be careful going so deep and leaving the rest of the map open, because, you know, it feels so free, right? You get another kill and you try to push the bottom lane and rotate into mid, but you're also giving a lot away.
And this is where coaches are really important, because how do you feel about these players? You called out, let's kill that Sylas again, and you do. And you're like, yes, we got it. But it's for the coach to tell you, actually, watch the whole minimap here. You lost way more. And how are you going to win this game? Well, forcing things early. Before items are there, what is the enemy team getting? Items on the people that matter. The Silas items do not matter this game. It's all about Vlad and the Jinx hitting their item spikes on time. So that's really where I think coaching needs to come in from Hanwha Life. They have On Air, the most veteran coach in Korean League of Legends history. Definitely a VOD review that won't favor the players, but right now the players probably feeling void because they've got 3 kills this game.
Yeah, well, they have that. We'll see how many more they can get is really the question. Because, as you mentioned, your Vlad's getting ahead and your Jinx is getting ahead. That's always fantastic feels. The one thing that Hanwha Life do have in terms of their big carries is the Azir got the kill once again. So, definitely a ton of gold going to your one big carry.
And you were asking for this. You said, what about those support bounties? Boom shakalaka key is the only member with a carry. This is a... really big thing here. Doa somewhere is nodding his head, talking about how bloodthirsty he has been, because that's the only way you can get the support bounty. You need to be bloodthirsty because the farm bounties can't generate from support. It's the 4 members of the team that aren't the support. It's the key. It's all about the kills.
2-0-1. Definitely a great start for him on the Thresh. Not his most played, as you mentioned. That was Tom Kent, but that was very early on banned by KingZone in that pick and ban. So we'll see if maybe he can get even more bloodthirsty, go into a Blitzcrank or something even more entertaining. Would be fun to watch.
It would be, but you know, you were already talking about how, yep, would have preferred to have those kills on a carry, and that's a very standard point, right? If it's tank jungle, you want to have it on a carry. If it's a tank support in general, you want to have it on a carry. In a game where the outscale from Vlad and Jinx is the main win condition from KingZone, it means that Azir is not a rapid-fire cannon. It may mean that a Banshee Veil is not complete yet for the Azir. It's actually more consequential in an outscale scenario that Key picked up the kills than it would be in a more balanced scenario for Hanwha.
bonO here. Saw him on that ward that just died. Deft should have seen the ward dying, but probably wasn't expecting to be interrupted so much. As now he's going to go for the back. Probably looking to finish off that Infinity Edge here. But decides against it for now just because of the pressure in the mid lane here from Hanwha Life. Don't really want to delay that Infinity Edge any longer than you'd have to, but doesn't want to miss any farm either.
Seeing the zoom out here. River control for Hanwha Life. They've already given up 2 objectives before they would prefer. One control ward in the area, but a ward on the pit being get it out. This is Infernal, of course, and they've already sacrificed 1. They know they can't afford to give up 2, whatever the comps have been in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, imagine double Infernal, Vlad, and Jinx.
I'd rather not.
Well, yeah. And even Aatrox. You know, we talk about the 2 big carries, but even Aatrox is going to benefit from all that extra AD as Azir ult is going to be taken here by Pawn. Big knock-up on a key, but he's really tanky. In goes Rascal into the back line, trying to separate everybody back there. And it does look like the Rek'Sai bonO didn't go too far, all by himself, and the rest of Hanwha Life getting so low. In goes Deft, he's going to get the triple already in this matchup. Not to mention the Infernal that goes the way of KingZone. He's looking for the Quadra, but TusiN steals it away from him. Nearly the ace goes the way of KingZone.
Jinx gets excited, KingZone fans get excited, but that was all Rascal splitting up 3 members. He dives solo into the backline way earlier than Vladimir should be able to control teamfights. Remember, he is spotted on this entrance. He's just brawling with Thal, but Rascal is able to zone all 3 threats. He actually zones all of the damage on Hanwha Life himself before he hits 4-item Vladimir territory, and that straight up wins the team fight because the front line is disconnected from the damage dealers. KingZone's approach to that team fight is just so much smarter than Hanwha Life's, and unfortunately the communication breakdown might have been too costly for the enemy team to return from. Big moment for KingZone.
Absolutely. That Vlad that was first pick, that was able to get the 1 kill based on Thal's mistake, that has some items, was able to do its job in a big way. Props to Rascal for making that all happen. And Deft says thank you very much. He picks up the triple kill. You know, he was just in the great position to make those kills happen afterwards and clean up the fight. And he's going to be rewarded as well. 3-0-1. Has the Infinity Edge plus a Zeal and a massive bounty.
And this is the glass half full of the KingZone roster on paper, because you looked at it and said, man, Deft is going to have to carry this team. Don't know much about some of these players. Don't know where Pawn's at. Rascal and Cuzz were subs on KingZone, and they, of course, never even made Worlds last year. The glass half full version is, if Pawn and Rascal can be what they have been in solo queue, what they have been in the past, and can perform in lane and play their role, then Deft can clean up better than almost any AD carry in the history of League of Legends. He has been the epitome of a Jinx cleanup carry. He has been a 50% damage dealt of his team carry. His team is finally starting to mature around him, and it seems like we can count on Deft, currently on a 6 MVP streak, to be the Deft of old.
We always like to, meme a little bit based on, the player salaries and how much money your money is worth, based on who you bought. Well, I don't know how much KingZone spent on Deft, but they're certainly getting their money's worth for this one player that comes in and is just saying, I'll play around a bunch of other guys that, may not have so much experience. They're not the biggest names in their roles, but give me the Jinx or any kind of AD carry, and I'll try to carry you guys.
And the TusiN raffle was very important as well. A lot of Korean teams would have wanted TusiN, given all the rookie supports we have starting. The Deft and TusiN together has given some experience to, much needed experience you would imagine for Rascal and Cuzz. Pawn himself has been that faux third carry this game, just been trying to occupy Azir in the side lane while Azir is at a very strong item point. So every time you see bonO camping Azir's lane, they're not going to win through this side lane push on the side. It's just not going to happen. So because of that, we're also seeing bonO on a champion who we have praised for their balance. We know Rek'Sai is strong, but Rek'Sai is strong now with a Black Cleaver, with a Warrior enchant being wielded in the early game. She's not strong in the late game, especially against a comp like KingZone. So because of that, Rek'Sai just camping and only getting 2 kill involvements in 22 minutes isn't playing to the strengths of Rek'Sai on patch 9.4.
Hasn't been given much room to do too much other than kill that one Silas, as you mentioned. They catch the Braum here. TusiN is going to get the nice knock-up, and Cuzz, a fantastic bodyguard, looking for that snipe. Deft nearly able to take out P on the backside. Definitely a Monka-esque moment for that Thresh in this game.
There's no getting better either. The damage only gets higher, and we already said they dropped the Jarv when they went Jace. They have no backline access. Jinx will pop off this game by hook or by crook. How are KingZone going to extend their lead? They're doing well on the side lane. They're trying to look for a pick. They could rush down Baron, but that's probably the only way they lose the game if the Baron is stolen away right now.
You can see that they go for it, but then immediately, even though Pawn is trying to play like, oh, I'm just clearing wards around here, it seemed like Hanwha were able to sniff that out, and they just back away. They know they're too far ahead. There's no reason to give that one away.
That is disgusting items to have at 23 minutes. Double Zeal, Infinity Edge, 75% crit, AoE crits already on the Jinx, and now even more so with the Rockets. And Berserker Greaves done. Deft is unbelievably fed. Yep. And again, this is the moment where you realize that you put everything into shutting down the Silas and making Pawn feel a little bit bad about his life. And around that, Vladimir and especially Jinx are ready to go super early.
Pawn's going to be fine to just hop on the bus and, steal Azir's ultimate, probably just create some ruckus in the backline while the Jinx and the Vladimir just rip to shreds the entire team. Doesn't matter that he's died 3 times. Honestly, feels like he's, doing the team's work after all this. And we'll see if it does end up that way. You mentioned all those really scary items on the Jinx, but one false move and maybe you can get that 1,000 gold bounty onto one of your carries, as there are no defensive items on the Jinx just yet.
You know who there are no defensive items on? Hanwha Esports. There's no armor anywhere. This Jinx with 10% more damage from the Hemo Plague.
You forgot the Ninja Tab.
I did forget the Ninja Tab. Literally,
that
Jinx
matters.
will instant kill. And pentakill in this game is so fast, might accidentally be stolen by a Q from Braum. That's how much damage she's going to be doing at the start of a fight. Yeah. Jinx outrageously far ahead. I think KingZone can win a lot of games if Rascal can keep up this level of performance, both doing well in lanes, because if you remember Kesper Cup in week 1 of the LCK, he was getting reverse matchupped. He was losing in a matchup and then playing the losing side, the winning side of the matchup, losing on that. Now he's playing Vladimir and making that work. He's team fighting well. That is really the big difference to me, because Deft has already been supremely great this year, and Pawn is fulfilling his role. A thankless task this game that I think think is so easy to laugh at, but he's actually done a very important thing for his team. And now we're just waiting for the aplomb, the slam dunk, the cherry on top, which will be the next team fight. If it's an even numbers fight, I don't see how KingZone lose.
Well, Jinx said hyper carry, where especially if you can get ahead, your team fighting gets insane. We haven't talked too much about Sangyoon on the Xayah. We talked about the Essence Reaver and how it's a good item for him, but at this point, he's also on 3 items. He's struggling to do damage, hasn't really found that opportunity. As we said it before, at the second Infernal fight, it was all Rascal that Hemo played the Xayah, and Sangyoon had to back. He wasn't given any opportunity to do even a little bit of damage. And really did come down to that, so we'll see if he can do something as the game goes along, but kind of doubtful at this point, Papa.
And to us, the chameleon champion for us has been Sylas, right? Because Sylas done a lot of losing. We've been like, oh, it's a bit like Tank Echo, oh, it's a bit like Swain. What I want you to appreciate is Sylas is down 70 CS. But we've already noted that Sylas in the LCK hasn't been able to use items and farm very well, right? Tank Sylases haven't been able to do damage, and AP Sylases haven't necessarily found things either. What we can say here is Sylas, for me, feels like one of those champs that kind of hits 2 items and will do a job. You know, steal some ults, zone some space, be fine without necessarily being a hard carry. That's all they need is Tempt.
Oh boy, Tempt actually goes straight into the brawl. I'm not sure about that one, buddy, as you're going to get blown up immediately as the rockets go to the face of Tempt. And, well, pretty easy kill there as he kind of messed up his combo. And, well, everybody else on the side of Hanwha Life has to just back away as minions are in position. They block the shot blast. They should get a free inhibitor here as the rockets are just going in there. They never seem to end here. As he throws out the ult just to say, get the hell away from my team.
He's got rapid fire cannon, so those ranged 400 damage AoE crits are pretty cool.
Pon just decides he's going to have a little bit of fun and cosplay the Jace from here on out. As that's going to be 2 inhibitors without even Baron coming out.
And Pawn gets to swag walk away on the stolen Jace. Oh, yes. Beautiful stuff here. Walking away. Gets to be Jace as long as he wants.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a best game as Sylas, so might as well play as something else. As we take another look at Tempt here as he goes back into TusiN. And, well,
you can be too far up with a Thresh to imagine you away against a lot of comps, but Jinx was always going to chase down and pick up the kill there. Jace concedes now. Pawn gets to have a second game. He's 0-0-0 on Jace so far this game.
Yeah, exactly.
He can forget about
the Sylas. He can just reset the Sylas score and say, you know, my Jace score is much better.
Riot has finally brought back blind pick in Korea. Thank you very much. Jace versus Jace. Exactly the right amount of Jaces this game.
Thank Mr. Riot.
Do you think he'll finish the game as Jace? That'd be pretty cool.
I would. I mean, he could literally disconnect and they'd still win the game. So he can pretty much do whatever he wants.
If he disconnects in a fight and they have to actually waste time killing him, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
If he doesn't,
the body isn't there,
yeah, exactly,
then maybe not. But I mean, we say that, and then bonO doesn't exist as the ultimate nearly catches him on the backside of that one. Again, do they really need the mid laner? I'm not so sure.
You know, with the lack of backline access, I'm starting to come around to your point. Get in there, Jace.
Nothing against Pawn, but at this point, when you got these carries that are this fed, do you need? Well, they're going for the Baron here.
Nobody to steal a Baron. bonO's not there yet. Are they aware of this? They see bonO soon.
Fancy Veil taken away as it looks like KingZone won't be taking any chances here. We got Rascal versus Thal. Actually goes the way of Thal, but okay. Yeah, Deft just gonna flash on in and delete your jungler. Let's go back to the Baron, actually.
This was so safety first. They actually could have been more assertive around the Baron. It doesn't matter because of how strong Deft is, accidentally putting people to death around the Baron. Pawn is still Jace, by the way. I'm very, very amused by this. Is there any way better to answer the roaming death squad that chased you down while your team won than to steal one of their champions and then swag in front of their face?
Let's take a look at how bonO dies here. 1 W and then 1 auto. And the shot blast from the J from, well.
Oh no! Jace is gone.
Wait. Oh. Well.
Pull one out for Jace.
Yeah.
He had a good one.
He did. He used it as much as possible, and now he's just Sylas again. push continues. They have Baron and a third Cloud Drake. We're not even going to get to see what the net. Okay, yeah, it's going to be the Elder. Comes up there as now he gets to be Jace again.
Well, no backline access. Really hard job to kill Deft. Good luck with that one. Hanwha Esports, they are just living on a prayer right now, but I don't know who you're praying to, because I think it's all about Deft this game.
We can just kind of sit back and watch Deft shoot people. It's always a fun thing to watch. It doesn't seem like he does too much damage when he doesn't crit, but when he does, that's when the real fun begins. As here we go, knock up onto E as it goes Deft into the front line here, just throwing out rockets. bonO trying his best to kill him, but not even getting close as the rest of Hanwha Life just going away. And Pawn says, here, take me one last time. As game number 1 is going to go the way of KingZone here.
I believe Pawn gave up 4 of 5 kills on the side of Hanwha Life, but it was all a ruse, Valdez. It was all when this man, the greatest alpaca of them all, farmed up his items, a farm bounty into 1,000 gold, killing farm bounty, to being the easy MVP again. I think Rascal would be, to me, the reason that his team won, but I think the voters will be priced into continuing that MVP streak. This is the KingZone DragonX that they could become, that they're starting to become, the team that lost 2-0 to Hanwha Life very convincingly just a couple of weeks ago. They battle back. They decimate Hanwha Life in game number 1. And maybe KingZone DragonX are a team that a lot of people will start to join the hype train of, because this was a very impressive performance that started in draft, and that looks like an alpaca ice cream.
Alpaca cone here, says Deft fighting as
you can't just not have a dumb grin seeing those alpaca signs. One of the oldest but favorite memes out here, the Glad playing the alpaca. They are old Korean and global memes, so cool to see that one. She's no doubt going to be stoked about game number 1.
As you mentioned, Deft probably going to pick up the MVP for that one, but, you know, he kind of just had good positioning and shot his rockets, whereas Rascal really made that team fight happen, so can't really blame the voters for going for Deft, but as you mentioned, probably our vote would go to Rascal in this one, but it raises issues, right? Hanwha Life, they try to draft for lane, they try to win the lane, but then a couple of mistakes later, macro and micro-wise, all of a sudden the game is blown wide open on 2 mistakes, and it's like, well, I guess we can't even stand up to KingZone now.
That felt like an EDG game for Deft, and that was a good sign where Pawn was running around doing his thing, and then Deft had his items and everyone died. That is how it went so often. Deft will give you this almost every game. You look at his damage percentage here, that's 8.3, 12.3, 18, 19, about 52% damage dealt by Jinx this game. Deft will give you this season, from what we've seen, at least an 8.5 out of 10 performance every game. And you know when great players give interviews and they thank their teammates? Literally, what he needs is for his team to close their variance and also start approaching no more kind of 4 to 8 or 4 to 10 performances. If they're closer to his level, he will slam dunk down, as Jinx can aptly do, and you get games like that.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if they can replicate that performance. Game 1 was really convincing for us here on the desk, and I'm sure for you guys watching, Hanwha Life, they're going to have to switch something up, not only in the draft, but in their play on the Rift. We'll have to wait and see after this commercial break.